Hi, I'm Kelly Payne from Meat and Livestock Australia. For over 2 decades, Meat Standards Australia has developed an eating quality program for beef and sheep meat. We've conducted over 1.2 million sensory taste tests with untrained consumers to verify eating quality. We currently have 275 cut-by-cook combinations across the beef carcass and 9 across sheep meat. This means we have 12 cook methods across most cuts in a beef carcass and 2 for sheep meat, to ensure that consumers get the right cut-by-cook combination every time. The end result of consumer sensory is we have 4 eating quality grades. They are fail, 3-star, 4-star and 5-star. And we will discuss this in detail as we look at different cuts. Today we're going to discuss the cut-by-cook outcomes for an MSA blade. The blade is made up of a bowler blade, oyster blade and shoulder tender. And we can see that it's available for a vast variety of cut-by-cook combinations and eating quality grades. The blade is made up of 3 major muscle groups. So we have the bowler blade here, or the triceps group. We have the oyster blade here, or the infraspinatus. And we have the teres major muscle here, or the shoulder tender muscle. What we'll do to begin with is remove the oyster blade. All we need to do is to follow a natural seam here that runs between the bowler blade and the oyster blade. So we follow along the silver skin between these 2 primals, and that'll enable us to correctly follow, and we will have no yield problems, and we can get all of the muscle between these two primals. And what's quite interesting as we continue to discuss what consumers said about oyster blade, or the comparison in eating quality between oyster blade and bowler blade and the shoulder tender. So off it comes. There's our oyster blade. Then we're left with the bowler blade and the shoulder tender. So we'll remove the shoulder tender now. The shoulder tender sits right on the back of the bowler blade, and when we prepare a bowler blade for sale, the shoulder tender is actually removed. Consumers said some quite amazing things about the shoulder tender and the eating quality of the shoulder tender. Untrained consumers have tested the shoulder tender as a grill, and unbelievably they've said that the shoulder tender has an eating quality that is 8% better than the bowler blade as a grill. So there we go, there's the shoulder tender, which is quite an extraordinary piece of meat. Now we can see that it's quite a large piece of meat and is quite commonly used in food service. The size and the weight of the shoulder tender varies somewhat from perhaps 200 to 300 grams in weight. So it's quite a substantial weight, or big enough to use in the food service environment. There's a little silver skin on each end that we can remove. And it is no more preparation than that. The shoulder tender, or sometimes commonly known as the petite tender. The bowler blade is common as a roast. It's also available as a grill. So to prepare the bowler blade, we'll simply remove this muscle here off the bottom. Which is the latissimus dorsi muscle. We'll remove that. And that would be our roast, our bowler blade roast. The oyster blade. So the oyster blade is made up of 2 muscles, or they are exactly the same muscle, but there's a big piece of gristle that runs down the middle of an oyster blade, which gives us 2 big flat fillets, if you will. And they're commonly known as flat iron steaks. So we're going to prepare flat iron steaks today out of this oyster blade. Consumers said, when we go back to our untrained consumers and the consumer research, the eating quality research that we've done, we find that the oyster blade has an extraordinary eating quality according to consumers in a blind taste test, to the point where it has a 13% eating quality difference between the bowler blade and the oyster blade. We have some silver skin here. This is from the lateral surface, and we'll remove that. So denuding the meat as we go. And the other thing that consumers told us that is quite unique about oyster blade as well is that it can be cooked in any direction. So we can cook it as a rolled roast or as a flat iron steak, as we will discover as we go along. And any connective tissue from the underside, which has already been removed, and we can begin to turn it into 2 flat iron steaks. In preparing the flat iron steaks, we would come to the thick end and find the big bit of gristle that runs through. What we'll do is we'll cut into there, and what will expose a big piece of gristle that runs all the way through. And we will continue to follow it from one end of the oyster blade to the other. And we use a shaving method. So we use the knife, the butt of the knife, and we'll continually shave all the way to the other end. And there we have one flat iron steak and the other. And we'll prepare the other flat iron steak as well. And there we have our 2 flat iron steaks ready for grilling. And there we have the blade broken down into its subprimal muscles. We have the bowler blade roast, the flat iron grill, and the shoulder tender grill. Fit for a wide variety of cook methods across a variety of eating quality grades. Whether you're preparing for a backyard barbecue or a large corporate function, the Meat Standards Australia Eating Quality Program ensures that you get the right cut for the right cook method every time.